All right, can you guys hear me? Cool. Are we ready? First of all, thank you all for coming to my talk, Path for Forensic Examiner ACE. First of all, thank you for the CornCon for having me back here second time. It's grateful, so thank you. In case you guys don't know me, my name is Tuan Phan. I work for a big, well-known financial institute. I'm an independent security researcher. I can't tell you exactly where I work because of legal purposes. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm sure you will figure it out. I'm there as the Assistant Vice President to the e-discovery and forensic examiner lead. I have many years of hands-on technical experience, including the e-discovery forensics, digital forensics, and digital forensic in response, and also insider threat strategies. I also do the ad hocs on the Threat Real podcast with my co-host over there, Matt Shear, as a principal security engineer there for them. You can also follow me on LinkedIn over there. The QR code is clean, so please follow me. I'm happy to follow you back. You can also get a copy of this slide too as well at my GitHub/fanforensic.slides. I will provide the slide again for you so that you can have the path. Yep, that will be on there too as well. I also do volunteer, and I love to do volunteer. If you have any volunteer that you would like me to participate, please let me know, reach out to me. I sit on the technical mentor at the Lakota Cyber Academy. I talk to high school teachers and also kids just to give them the exposure to the cybersecurity world. What is it like? They get to shadow me during the day too as well to see what I do during the day and stuff like that. I also sit on the advisor board member at the Warren County Career Center. It's a local community college. I sit with them, craft out the curriculum for them, a path to the cybersecurity and all that, and how they can achieve their cybersecurity certifications and path. Yes, I do have a day job. Therefore, my talk today and whatever I talk today is based on my own opinion and my own independent security research. It does not express or reflect any of my employers. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about digital forensics examiner. We will talk about baseline knowledge required to be the awesome digital forensic examiner. We will discuss about public versus private sectors. What's the difference? What's the similarity? We will touch base on the basic technical skills and experience to be the digital forensic examiner. And if we have time, I'm happy to do Q&A. So when I said the word forensics to you, what comes to your mind straight right away, right? Often, it's either a gal or a guy like me in a white lab coat, right? Sitting in a clean room or a forensic lab with no windows, no sunlight, no clean air, a lot of equipments like hard drives to tinkering with all day long. A lot of people ask me really what I do for a living. I tell them I'm the forensics examiner. Most of the time, 9 out of 10 people look at me like, what? That's because most of them do not understand or know what the hell is the digital forensics examiner do. They hear people be like pen tester, vulnerabilities assessment, or security analyst working in the security operating center, but never heard of digital forensic examiner. What do they really do? So hopefully by the time this talk, you guys will understand what the digital forensic examiner do and does. This talk's also inspired me by job candidate that I participate in interviewing for the digital forensic examiner level 1, level 2, and level 3. So hopefully it will also help fulfill the knowledge, clear out the confusion, and the skill gaps that require to be the digital forensic examiner. Last but not least, is digital forensics, is this the career path for you? Otherwise, you can be the security analyst and do work in the security operating center, or you can be the awesome digital forensic guy. So let's address the big elephant in the room here, right? So what is digital forensics? In a simple way to putting it for you guys is the process of identifying things that what bring to you in a crime scene and stuff like that. How do you identifying it? And then collecting it in a way that it is not being altering. So that, remember, anything that you do in digital forensics, it can be traced back for legal and compliance reasons, purposes. Once you collect the data, then you're preserving it in a way that it's not being tampered. Once you're done with that, then you would extract the data, analyzing the data, examining the data based on your case involvement, and presenting that in a way or a manner that is acceptable by the court of law or others. If you're in private, you would have to provide the report to HR or the manager. Your job is to reconstruction of the event provided by a crime if you're in public sector, or a case of user misconduct in private. Digital forensic, of course, is about data and metadata. What is metadata? It's basically the data about data itself. So if you take a look at the picture of a cat, it's the data. But in behind the picture, there's the metadata of it. What it's telling is giving you the artifacts of the data itself. You know, when was the picture taken? Who taken the picture? What equipment was used for that? Is there a geolocation when the picture was taken? If it was a file in Excel or something, it will tell you who the author are. You know, the creation date, the modified date, last access. The last but important thing is, was it printed? Who printed that? It's important to forensics, and it's important artifacts to know. So what is the role of the digital forensics and digital forensic incident response? To be honest, they're really close together. They're overlapping the role of each other. The picture over there, describe it pretty, for you. Phase one, you do, for the digital forensic, they do the collections and do the preservations of the data. Then the post-incidents, where they do the incident response, do the containment, accreditations, recovery, and lesson learned, right? Then there's also phase two too, where digital forensic come back. They do the examination, the analysis, and the presentations of what they found, the conclusion. So basically, digital forensics is the preservation of the data. So what's inspiring to be the digital forensics examiner? Retaining working level knowledge of 5 steps here, right? Digital forensic, you got the identifications, data collections and preservation of the data, do the analysis and examination of the data that you found, reporting that and present it to whoever the audience of the request is. Last but not least, you do a lot of documentations. You spend documentation all your entire time. Maybe it's a 2-minute things that you do investigation, but you may take 5 hours to document the hell out of it. So when do digital forensics really start? It could be anything that with criminal or cybercrime investigation. Depends on the public or private. Any event happen in your company perimeter, for example, right? Inappropriate conduct, fraud, data being tampering with, misuse of the company resources, someone getting to something that they shouldn't have in a malicious way, that is your case, that is your investigations. For example, like mouse jiggler. How many of you here know what mouse jiggler is? Right. Well, in case you don't, it is a device, either hardware or software, that permitting the screen to go on timeout or idle. So that way you can go outside, cut your grass, play golf, play bowling, whatever, right? Your boss would not know. Why is that important? Well, your manager want to know if you use any of those techniques to avoid working. And they want to know for sure so that they can terminate you without any reaction. So what does it take to be the awesome digital forensic examiner? That person needs to have a good analytical thinking, ability to clue together in a conclusion that is with a complex investigation data and stuff like that. How do you draw in the conclusion? That person should have a good attention of details, right? Position of critical when handle the evidence itself, when it delivered to you. You need to know how you react to that, how you make sure that you're not exposed to things, or how you tampering things. You want to make sure you clear those evidence. Communication skill is also important. Sometimes you may not get the data that you need, or the data that you can want it. You may want to work with other teams to get the data that you need. You may work long hours, depends on the case. It may be 24 hours. You may tinkering with that equipment forever. The ability to work good under pressure. Why? Because if you're in private sector, it's very important. Decision they need to know based on your artifacts, your proof that provide to them. Either they're determined to terminate the user or not. If it's a crime, is it important enough for them to go there and chase and arrest the user or the person? You may testify in court. That person has to do those things. So I mentioned a lot about public and private. What's the difference here, right? Public sector, you work a lot with government bureaus, CIA, FBI, your local for law enforcement. You deal most with device of evidence criminal crimes such as hacking, fraud, homicide, drugs, you name it. The goal in public here is to provide the evidence of a crime, right? A lot of labs in the public sector are accredited, meaning they're under the ISO standard 9001. Whatever they do is following a very strict standard operating procedure. They don't deviate at all. If they do deviate it, they have to get approval. So everything they do, they have to document it from down to the core. What version you use, what software you use, when did you launch that application, such and such. Private organizations, almost the same thing. We deal the same type of device analysis as public does, but less. Why? Because in private, they do things called BYOD, which is bring your own device. So if it's your own device, you don't have to give up for your investigations. Now, the court may ask you for it, but you can always throw it in a pool, and there goes the data, right? You're also going to do a lot of email archive, SIMs, DRs, EDR and compliance portal, or your DLP tool logs and stuff like that. Why? Because you may not get the evidence to you. You may not able to get to the workstation because a lot of people are working remotely. So you have to pivot your investigation based on the needs. You also deal with a lot of legal right hold e-discovery. If you don't know about this, I suggest Google it. It's a great thing to read up. It's a FRCP Rule 37. Most of the private will do the legal hold and stuff. So the goal here in the private here is to solve the case under the user, preventing the potential future threats, insider threats, things like that. Not all lab in the private are accredited in the ISO 9000. Why? They don't have a fully dedicated staff or a skill set for people that do this type of things. They don't have a fully dedicated lab for the technician or the examiner to do examining. So therefore, not all labs are accredited. They have to go through a third-party assessor to do that thing so that they can testify in court. So now that we understand the digital forensic examiner, what do we need to do in terms of skills, right? Operating basic skill, general knowledge of operating system, Windows, Linux, Mac, iOS, Android, and any others. It's a fair game. You also need to understand the basic artifact skills from Windows, things like recycling bin, which is where deleted data are from, registry, browser artifacts, where the user are browsing, what activity did they do, file activity, window event logs, shrumps, and others. Linux and Macs, almost the same thing as well, but they're just naming it differently. Trash bin, file system events, and stuff like that. Mobile device, iOS and Android nowadays, right? Geolocations, where was the phone last time it was turned on or turned off? Communications, what platform did they use? What application? Was it WhatsApp? Was it Facebook? How did they communicate? Media-wise, what was on the device? Media. Web browsing, what was the user browsing? Was it a Ferrari or a Lamborghini? It's always best to know. And others too as well. So it's great to know all those basic artifacts for your investigation. Now that you understand the artifacts, you need to understand knowing where it's supposed to be located on the endpoint devices, right? Windows, recycling bins will always be in C unless you move it somewhere else, but it's always going to be C. Registry won't be under System 32, right? SRUM data is also on System 32. There's many others too as well. Linux and Macs, you see home user profile. There's also logs that under the var. For the iOS, Androids, and mobile device, you see the mobile library there. That's Safari. It tells you the browser. The SMS database will tell you the text message and stuff. And there's plenty more. And I'm sure you won't remember all. I don't remember all either. It's crazy if you have to remember all. So don't worry. SANS. They have a poster you can download. Put it on your refrigerator, put it on your lab, put it on your wall. This is your holy grail. Now, I know it's small to scrunch your eyes, but you can download this and it will show you applications where the executions are, file and openings and stuff, browser activities, where all these artifacts located. If you go there, you will get the artifacts for you. Phones. If you think Linux and Windows was horrible, phones itself is crazy. Mobile phone, there's tons of database in there that you can go pull your artifacts. So good news, SANS have it on there. You can pull it down and then just reference it. Another important skill is logs, right? It's the bedrock and starting point of any of the security investigations to me. Logs depends on private and public. Private, you will have a lot of logs because everything is centralized, right? You can, if you have access to the SIMs, you can get to that, or the DLP tool will provide you the logs. In public, the only logs you have is on your endpoint. If that person doesn't have any logs on there, chances you may not. It may be on the cloud. So it all depends on where the logs is. So log is your friend. Anything with the investigation, really start with the logs. So now that you understand the log, it's best to know where the log exists on various endpoints, like I mentioned, right? Windows, it's going to be under the window event logs. Linux, you got the vars logs, flash system logs there. Server logs, you may not use a lot because it depend on your investigation. If you're on a CSIRT, incident response, you may do a lot of server logs, system drive, and then interlogs, and then logs file. Application logs, like I mentioned, is depend on the application itself. Now, most of the applications are beamed to the cloud. So it may be on the cloud. You may have to get the cloud access and stuff like that. For public, some may in a centralized locations. You may use Splunk, you may use any type of SIM centralized. The next thing you understand is, need to know the basic of the SQL basic skill, understanding structural query language. Why? A lot of web browser or a lot of mobile forensics now, they're all going to this structural query language because it's easier, it's more contained, it's more, I would say it's just better for them to store their informations. If you don't know how to do this basic skills, there's free online training. You can start from the beginning to the advanced course. The next thing you need to understand is how to identify the file type identification skill, right? Understanding file signatures, file headers, or whatever you prefer to call them nowadays, right? Because file extension can be altered or removed or manipulated. If you don't, you need to know more about it. There's a great guy that wrote it out this at Google. It's Gary Kessler. He wrote a good summaries of it. Here's an example of the file type case study that I did, right? If you notice, there was an investigation I was doing. I was wondering why there's 2.11.txt, but look at the file data size. It's huge. It's like 1.4 meg. That's a lot of data in one file. If you look closely down the bottom, the header is PK, basically. It's a zip file. But in the zip file, there's pictures in there. So people actually zip the picture, rename the file name, and then rename the extension just to circumvent people won't see things in there. So your security may not see it, but if you're a digital forensic and you close the details, you may find that out. Hey, look like someone is hiding certain pictures in there. Maybe a cat pictures or a dog. Who knows? Next thing you need to know is identifying the file execution, because HR would love to hear this. Understand how to know if the file was executed on the window endpoint, for example, right? You can look this up in the user assist, recent apps, shim cache, current version, prefetch, and there's many more. This is just some of the places you can get the artifacts from. Why is it important? Well, because HR want to know how many times did Matt or John click on this execution, right? If you see down there, how many times was the File Explorer launched? It looked like it's launched 26 times. Why? Well, that's the integration, the investigation need to ask that user, why you launched that picture 10 times? Maybe it's a nice picture. You need to also understand and know how to identify file activity skill. Understanding how to know when the file was accessed. Usually this is great for HR or legal too as well. When the user leaves the company, they want to know what file was the last time they accessed, what file was accessed, right? This track under the jump list, recent docs in your registry, last visited MRU. That was the last path. Let's say if you click on something on a file share, it will tell you the path of it. So that if legal said, where was it launched? It was launched in the company directory file share down there. Link file will provide that, right? A shortcut, shellbacks, and there's many more. Like the artifacts I show you on a SANS poster. It will tell you exactly where the artifacts you need to know and pull it out. Next thing you need to understand is file activity case study here, right? For example, from the file activity, recent doc right there, that was launched. It was used, and it created a user link as well as a shortcut. So that's the case study for that. Next thing you should know is how to identify USB activity skill. So if the person has the mouse jiggler plugged in, it's great to know the USB activity skill so you know when the USB was plugged in, that thumb drive, that media, right? The majority of USB related artifacts usually is in your registry. It's under the USB store. Or you see it down there as well, what mount device. It will tell you all of those informations. Window event logs also show that too, but sometimes they're overwritten, depends on how long the log's been there or not. Here's an example. In the USB store, system cache control set, right, numeral and USB store, you see there, it will tell you the type of the device, the serial number, the manufacturer. This is also great for insider threat too, because they can write a rule to detect this and to block it too as well. And if you go to court, court may ask, how do you know which USB was used to copy the data out? You can provide this information. This is your artifact. This is your proof for your investigation. Next thing is understand the order of volatile, right? Many data that you get will come from different sources. Things like media, flash drive, things maybe on the cloud, on a SharePoint, whichever. They all have a protection mechanism there to protect the data itself. There's a great article out there that written by this guy, RFC-327. It's a guideline to the evidence collections and archiving. It's a good practice for your investigations, how to collect certain data at a certain way, because not all data stick around. So some media, such as volatile than the others, for example, the registry and cache. Once you log off, all that goes away. Or if you close that application, all the cache will disappear too as well. Routing table, ARP cache, process table, memory. As soon as you restart that computer, that memory goes away. You won't have it. So you have to do a memory dump before that happened, right? Disk, you may ask, well, what's going to happen? My disk's going to be sitting there forever. People can format the disk. People can delete things from the disk. So you have to know to go in and retrieve it right away before people move from a company, they'll steal it out. Remote logging, monitoring the data and stuff, those are a little bit less intense, so therefore it sits there forever, like your Wi-Fi settings and all that. Physical configuration, network topology, those you can get them later. So understanding how the data stay within that environment, get to the important things first before it disappear, basically. So what forensic tool do you need to build on your forensics knowledge here? Many tools can be used to perform the data analysis on different operating systems. Forensic tool, things like Kali, this is Linux, Helix, Deft, D-E-F-T, I think there's version 8 now, right? Autopsy, Sleuth Kit, a lot of people use. SIF, a lot of incident response people use this one. FTK Imager, Neurosoft, Velociraptor, that's the new to me too. It's a great tool to capture all the artifacts with the click of a button. There's also CAPE, it's also open source. It's also great to do it with your triage. There's also mobile forensics. Mobile forensics is new, so it's not a whole lot out there, tools to use. There's SAFT, there's Autopsies, there's Belkasoft, there's also iLib, and there's Android too as well, which is, I think it's called ALib. What that does is, if you have the image of the mobile forensic, with the click of a button, it will tell you exactly what happened in there. Things like, hey, your text message, or your photos, web browsing histories, everything. So what is the way to build your forensic skill? To me, I do a lot of following the cybersecurity LinkedIn group free training, because I'm all about free. Anything is free, I'm happy, right? You can follow the forensic focus. Microsoft usually give you a great training webinar. It's more like training on how to use that tool. If you pay the version, you get more feature for more module, but the basics is good enough for you to use for your investigations. You can follow a lot of YouTube channels, like digital forensics channel, things like TED Talk. SANS also gave out free YouTube channel too as well. Google Career Certification, they give you a basic forensics certification there. Then there's also others, I'm sure. Also, Matt pointed out to me that there's also ENSA, I-N-I-S-A. I think I pronounced it wrong. It might be ENSA or something. It's more like a European forensics place where you can go in, you have a great module. It basically goes through step by step how you do certain steps for the digital forensics itself. So if you had to finish the other step in terms of like capturing the memory, capturing the disk image and stuff like that, it will go step by steps. It's a great place to do the mobile forensics and digital forensic training. What are some challenges that I see, right? Rapidly changing technology and data volume. I used to start with what? 250 megs. Now, the hard drive on a laptop is 1 terabyte. I haven't seen 2 terabyte yet. I've seen that at home, but I haven't seen that work yet. But for 1 terabyte, it takes 6 hours to do an image. And then it takes another 2 hours to do the file integrity. Basically, it checks to make sure your image is not corrupted. So imagine if you got a 5 terabyte hard drive, you'd be sitting at the lab forever. There's also a lot of system and application updates. Constantly, Apple is pushing the updates every week now. I used to remember, I jailbreak my iOS. They don't do the iOS update for like a month. Now it's every 2 weeks they push out. The iOS 26 is just out. Now they have a 26.1 already, right? Next things you need to understand is when you work in digital forensics, you're going to have a lot of hours. Many hours, tinkering with the equipment, tinkering with the data. You may want to check with your mental health. Ask yourself, hey, if you work too hard, get up, walk around, come back, make sure you're in a great place. Otherwise, you're in that stage where it's not good for you. There's also ongoing education because as we evolve, a lot of equipment, a lot of data, a lot of technology has changed. We have to keep up. Nowadays, I don't see a floppy disk anymore. We all now have media in terms of flash drive. Later on, you won't see a flash drive anymore. Everything's going to be virtual, right? Unsupported device with things like, you'd be surprised, we get things from the past of the past. I got Nokia phone come into my lab. How are you going to extract that data? I got BlackBerry that comes into the lab. We had to take the chip off. You have to take the data off. That's part of the investigations, right? So you have to understand how you're going to deal with those unsupported devices. Encryptions, security feature. A lot of things now are encrypted. A lot of security feature will preventing you to do your investigations. There's a lot of POS out there in terms of like point of sales. If you don't know how to open it in the right way, it will self-destruct. Data will pop out, and then it will clear everything. Even laptop, if you open up and thinking you can get the hard drive out, if you don't take it out right in the wrong way, there's that mechanism down in the back where it's called a kill switch. It automatically, if you pop it up, it kills the BitLocker keys, and then that basically hard drive is dead. You can't do anything, right? So you have to understand those type of challenges so that you can do your investigations. What certification do you need? Right? A lot of people ask me this. There's CISP, Certified Information Security Professional. I don't have that, but it's great to have that. There's CCE, Certified Computer Examiner. It's great to have that because you will know how to do your computer examiner. There's Certified Forensic Computer Examiner. What's the difference here? One is you doing your computer like A+, the other one is Security Plus. Think of that. There's GSACs, there's also CompTIA, A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Salary and benefit. By this time, I'm sure you guys are awake now, right? Right? Well, so what's the starting salary for computer forensics professional? Depends on various locations, maybe factors. You know, Davenport, Iowa, I do not know. But I'm sure it's not going to make, more than San Francisco Bay. I'm sure they're making a lot more. So it's dependent on where you're at. Also, it's dependent on the public versus the sector too as well, the private. Private organizations are bigger. They will pay you more. Public, it might be different. You're in the government. Right now, the government has shut down, so you may not make anything at all, right? What degree versus certifications? This is important. A lot of people always ask, so should I get a certification and do what I need to do, or should I get a degree? It all really depends. Both is great, but you don't really need them. You need experience, right? Some people say, oh, I can get a certification, I can be a good guy. I tell them, for example, you can take a training on Navy SEAL, but that doesn't mean that you come out, have a certification on Navy SEAL, you can be the badass Navy SEAL. No, you still have to do your experience. So that's experience trump everything, right? That's why number of years of experience will always better. And of course, location, like I mentioned. With that, any questions? I think I ran that pretty quick. Yeah. Wow.
10 minutes.
Yeah, Q&A. And that's my GitHub too as well. I will post this slide after I'm done with this presentations. Other than that, yeah, thank you for coming.